Hi friends, Sharon here, Texture Junkies. So I promised a part 2 to our bubble video, and I'm going to show you how crazy pants bubble obsessed I was all week. I even made 2 little projects that I'm going to share with you, and I will do that at the end. Well, this at least. And I'm going to show you kind of what worked, what didn't work, what mediums worked for me, and kind of what papers. I can't give you an exact recipe because each medium is going to act differently. But I can recommend ways to control the bubbles, ways to use different mediums, and kind of give you direction to head so you can make less mess and know where you put your bubbles. Okay, so first of all, I do want to share I made some stationery. Just showing how you might use your bubbles. And I just used some cardstock here and did a few things. And that's just with the black. So that's just a bit of fun. We'll save her for last. I was going to make notes because, I was bubble crazy all week. I did want to share that thing I almost didn't cut up. I ended up cutting up where I had put gesso over part of it and used some different colors. And I managed to get a rust color, but that was hard. I'm going to tell you why. I found that white does not work. I mean, if you find a way to use white, please let me know. But I tried sprays. I tried pigment powders that were like the real stuff. I had a little bit of success with the re-inkers, and I don't have this in white, but this might work in white. I'm not sure. The problem is science. Oh, and white gesso and white paint I tried. Scientifically, white is a heavier medium. And with your bubbles, you're going to want the lightest medium possible to get those bubbles to work, because soap, if it's doing what it's supposed to do, will separate the medium, and you're going to find that it either just pools. I'll show you a couple examples. I did have a little bit of success with this, and getting an opaque medium to work is really hard. It doesn't want to. It wants to stay in the bottom of your container. It wants to clog your tools. I found that this became one of my favorites, and it's just pantyhose over a straw. And I had a lot more control of the bubbles that way. I also really liked the pantyhose on the tube because I can squish it and, change the shape of the tube. And then the dryer sheet. I mean, we don't need anything fancy here to do this. Just make sure you have lots of little containers to dip in. I did order a 6-pack of bubbles that are not here yet. And I know I could have probably just gone to the Dollar Tree, but I ordered a 6-pack so I can transfer these. And then I have the bubble wand. I would recommend using, watercolor mediums. Anything that's lighter, like a drawing ink would work. But opaque is a hard thing to do. So pastels are tough, You can use your liquid watercolors. Those are great. Gouache is a little heavy. So that's where you're going to run into clogs and stuff. But that is a little success I had. And that right there is, I think that one, and a little bit of walnut ink because I was trying to lighten it up. But it was pretty hard to get on there. Gesso became a factor on some of the papers because some of them are too heavy, or some of the papers wanted to bleed because they were too lightweight, like these ones. Let me get this out first. And then I'll share with you my favorites. So, the dictionary page was antique, had too much cotton in it. Wallpaper and file folders were great. I was trying to get white on black there. It didn't really work. That is a little bit of that same medium, but it's on there so thick. It's got a texture, and not a good texture, That didn't work at all. Once again, bit of a texture that's kind of sticky. And that's what we're trying to avoid, you know, the sticky. That's just on a roll off. That kind of worked, but you know, whatever you've got underneath is going to make a huge difference. And that has a weird texture too. It's just too thick. Didn't work on black paper, like hardly at all. Tried a couple different kinds, you know. Have lots and lots of scrapbook paper or pages that you want to get some color on handy and setting off to the side. It just made it a whole lot easier. Somebody suggested doing it in a pan, and that would have been good too, but all I did was put down, and it's still under here, some baking paper. I just rolled it out on my desk, and I learned that I had, after a couple, you know, you guys saw the bubble explosion I had at first. I learned how to control it after a while. So tissue paper was tough, real tough, because it just wanted to like bleed and go together. Real tough, like I said. So it's hit and miss. I mean, worst case, you're dyeing some papers, you know, which is kind of good because we need those. This is just, you know, the whites. It's like some maps and some old wrapping paper. I did like that result pretty well. This is wallpaper, which some wallpapers are going to be, it depends on how porous your paper is. You want it kind of medium porous, and that's where the gesso comes into. This is tea bags. Tea bags. This was that antique graph paper, and it's almost like baking paper, it feels like. And it kind of worked on there. So, and that was an accident that was even on my desk, if you guys remember from the last video. This is an old Bible page, and it's got that same sort of feel. It kind of worked. Any kind of paint that you put underneath, if it's metallic, and by the way, metallic pigments do not work at all. They just want to settle at the bottom, just like the whites. Anything metallic is just too heavy for a bubble. You can't get enough soap in there to counterbalance that, and then you have sticky globs of soap like the ones I showed you. So this paint has a metallic, and it's kind of really thick and plasticky. I'm shocked that that worked at all. It's just on a piece of scrap paper. Dictionary. Here's a little example for you where I was talking about the gesso. I put gesso right here. You see the difference there? And then if you get these little dots, that's where the pigment was heavy and it still works, like my black. If you recall, it was golden high fluid acrylic, which turned out to not be my favorite because it leaves all these little dots when the bubbles pop. And it's concentrated pigment. And in most cases, those wiped right off. But with the acrylic, it's a lot harder. So I just wouldn't even reach for the acrylic paint in this instance. It might be fine for the kids, but for your grown-up bubbles, that's right. I said grown-up bubbles. Stencils. We're going to talk about that for a minute. So I did try to do some stencils. I even like taped this one down. I haven't looked at it, but I'm guessing it's a no. See that? Because it just bleeds too much underneath. It's a very wet medium, very, very runny. So it had a hard time, you know, but still cool. Still, that gave some yum. Incidentally, this month for the Makers Creative Collab and one of the other challenges in Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artists, it's Fly Me to the Moon, and I have 3 different moon stencils available in their shop that I designed, and here are 2 of them. I don't have the third one out here currently. Oh, I do. Look at that. Look at that. It's got a moon too. Plus they have some other moon stencils, so you should check that out over at pmartiststudio.com. Okay, so other stencils. This is on sticker paper, and that one actually kind of worked. See that? I did tape that one down, but it only kind of worked because some other color came off the stencil already. If you're gonna try a stencil, try one with great big spaces like that or like that, because, I mean, you might get more success. That is actually sticker paper. Look how cool that is. But, you know, it was hit and miss, really. Here I just blew bubbles on the sticker. It's label paper is what it is. And once again, there are those, and I might be able to just take a baby wipe and wipe those off. Because it was paint, it probably won't run. This was probably the most successful stencil. And it depends on your paper. Once again, this is a resume paper, and it's like a woven, it's got like a tooth. And it was just the right thickness, I guess. I don't know. Right absorbency. There's a scrap piece, There's a moon. Okay, so now we're going to get into what was successful. One of the experiments that I did was with the gesso. And what I did was you can see where I put that gesso. Can you see it? It's in circles. And there's a difference. There's this is gesso from here up. Big difference in the absorbency of the paper, where it just wants to absorb in there. And here I have more separate bubbles. And once again, you can wipe, most of the time you just wipe those off after they dry. That's non-gessoed. That one is gessoed. These were fun, by the way. Great way to test things is things like this, or my favorite tags are good for that. I like that one. I would guess that, and here, I can probably just wipe most of those away. And that would also come off with a baby wipe, because it's just walnut ink that we're looking at. It was just because, the heavier your pigment is in your bubbles, the more likely that is to happen. So, coffee or tea would probably work the best. I don't think it would separate like that. I had so much made that I didn't reach for either of those things. Okay, this one right here where I just scraped paint on it, and I love it. But again, it's it's whatever you want to do with it and the projects you have in mind, and this is definitely my style. This was with some silver paint that I made, I think. And it didn't really work because it has that metallic in it, and it was just too shiny. Acrylic paint is basically plastic, so anything that if you seal it too much, where gesso has a tooth, but your plasticky metallic paints are too slick, you get a lot of pooling with the bubbles, and then they just don't show up. That one didn't show up at all. That one I really like too, but it's got a texture. Once again, same with that texture there. Texture. You're going to have successes and failures, and that's part of art. It's part of learning and growing, and experimenting is so important. And if I can, encourage you to do something new and help you make less of a mess, or kind of get some of that stuff out of the way, I'm totally happy to do that. Okay, one of my favorite things that happened was right here. I tried vellum, it didn't work, didn't really show up, but I have this paper that is, and if you guys want a link for this, let me know. I can look for it in my Amazon. It's transparent alcohol ink paper, and it's like semi-transparent. I think that's what it was called. I tried a couple of them last year. I ordered a few of them for different things. But I really like the way this came out. And these will probably, these ones are just wiping off. And this has some tooth to it. It's not super slicky. I really love the way it came out. Look at that. That one. Oh, watch for some of these in my hop project coming up on the 22nd, because we're going to have a fabulous hop again. If you watched last month, you know kind of what I'm talking about. We do it's kind of an art show, so watch for that. Okay, another thing I experimented with here. After I did this live and tried it for the first time, some people told me about others that had done this, And I was just, you know, it was a kid project that I was trying to make grown up. I had no idea there was something in the air, and others were trying it too. But I saw somebody spray water on it, and I don't remember who. And I wanted to show that there's really no difference between getting it wet first just makes it curl quicker, you know. That's what I discovered. So this is the difference between wet and dry. I mean, you can't really tell. I only know because I wrote a little W in pencil here to show. Not getting it wet ahead of time, you're going to have less curling when it's not supposed to be happening. So, you know, that would be my recommendation. And once again, that was just because the pigment was too heavy. Got to stir as you go. Look at that. And then I also had played with the formula. I added a little more water, or I added a little more soap until I felt like it was right for each pigment. That one's got, I actually had some black in my thing already, so it's got a couple different colors in there. And this is liquid watercolor right here. Let's see. It is Bombay liquid watercolor, and I love the result. You just don't go too heavy on it. You know, get it, you just have to play with it a little bit. We're almost done here, and then I'll share that little book with you. If you're having fun, please like, subscribe, and share. And guess what, you guys? I am 2 away from 700. And then we're going to do some sort of a contest. I haven't decided what yet. And I'm going to do a giveaway. And some of these are probably going to be given away, but I can't tell. Shh. Here's some of the tags that I did. I mean, I did hundreds of bubble experiments and papers this week. So I won't share them all, but I will share some. Look at these. I mean, there's so many. Once again, I just haven't gone through and brushed all that off yet. Oh, yeah, it comes right off. Look at that. And then one more stack here, and we'll do a little flip through. All right. So what I did also, I just made these envelopes. And I will finish bubbling those up. And I just started adding, like in categories, to the envelopes as they dried. Oh, and it doesn't take very long for them to dry. I know you're thinking, oh, this is going to be a mess and it's going to be wet forever and I don't have the patience. But they really don't take long to dry if you're not getting all that pooling. So this is where I tried some metallic pigment. And that's what that is there. And a little bit of it showed up, but for the most part, I just wouldn't even bother because it is, it's too heavy for the bubbles. That was that rust color. I think this was the first one I tried. And when I did each little experiment, what I lined my desk with paper on top of the baking paper. So whatever it caught, whatever bubbles kind of went astray, had a, you know, fighting chance. And that's what these two, that's what those were. I love this. They smell good. So you remember I used the Lindy's Magicals here, and this was one of the first ones. I think I did this one on camera, but that is the shaker, and it has a little bit of metallic shine to it, and that was short-lived, and most of it stayed in the bottom of the cup, but I can see a little bit of it here. This is where I put more soap in, so I had bigger bubbles. I'll be storing these in the bubble containers with the wands, and I did try to make a wand too, and it did not work. It should have, but it didn't for whatever reason. And then, you know, somebody else had mentioned if I think something's missing, I'm just going to say, oh, it just needs some more bubbles. You know, just add bubbles to everything. I mean, why not, right? Okay, let's see. Did I show you everything? Let's find out here. Yes, I think I did, except for our little book. Did I show you those? I did show you those. Okay. I mean, it's not everything, but it's most. And we talked about white and opaque pigments just really don't work, so I wouldn't. Coffee, tea, anything that is liquid mixed in very well with the liquid before you add the soap. And because I used concentrated soap, that meant that I used like, I don't know, like a teaspoon of soap, or like a teaspoon to a half a bottle of liquid. You do go through them faster than you know. A lot of times I used this and I just scraped it off, or I blew them on and I spread it out very, very, very gently. It takes a gentle hand if you're going to use that. Okay, so let's look at this. So all I used here was the bubble pages, and I decided she was in a bath. And I used a stamp set that has these girls' faces. I think it's all the same. Oh no, should have glued that down, I guess. It's got a sticky on it, but I don't use gemstones very often. They were in a bucket on my desk, so I thought I should try. Okay, so it says rub-a-dub, dub, and I kind of made this her peekaboo. I used wave stamps, some antique lace. Of course, we've got our bubbles. And I actually put that on a piece of wallpaper that I had been kind of, you know, covered my desk with, that had the brown on it. And I cut her an arm. I made her a body on a tea box, cut her an arm. And this has been floating around my desk forever and ever since I did some flowers way back when. And I thought it looked like a bathing cap. I used some fun scissors here. This is my favorite part right here. I made a little bath poof. I used a piece of wire, and it's got a little handle, and it's a tiny little bath poof. And I put a hand on it. I've got a little doohickey there. That goes back in there. And then this opens up this way, and I just thought the bubbles were appropriate. And I didn't go over the top here. I should have. I usually get lost in all kinds of fussy detail, and I kept like slapping my own hand saying, okay, that's enough, because this is for somebody else to fill out. I am going to give this away with my 700 subscriber giveaway. Not just this, but this is going out. I used a bobby pin here because I thought that was appropriate. There she is again on that wallpaper. It's a little doohickey here. So I thought it would be a fun prize. When I started it, I didn't know it was going to be a prize. It just turned into that. So more of the wave stamp. Of course, it's on bubble paper. I used an old French, I don't know, skin cream ad here. And I made a little piece of stationery. It folds up here. Goes there. And there. Little PM Artist Studio stencil, which I had also used on the front because it matched the orange bubbles. It was a paper I already had. Oh, and I guess something needs to go in there. So it's probably going to be one of these. I'll use a small one, tie a little something on there. And there's the back. Oh, and these are paint chips. That's paint chip. It said Water Garden. Thought it was perfect. And this is a paint chip that she's on right here, but I covered most of it. So that will be in the prizes. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the bell. Hit the bell, hit the bell, hit the bell. So you can be notified and YouTube knows that you like what you see over here. I hope you go play an experiment today and keep a lookout for my next live stream coming up, let's see, a week from tomorrow. And I don't know what we'll be doing yet, but we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.